Hello and welcome to Broad Daylight with me, Priscilla. Today on Broad Daylight, we have a private legal practitioner with name Mr. Peprah Berko, and he's going to help us digest a particular story which is making headlines since last week, and it's all about a 10-year-old boy who has been murdered by some teen boys. He's going to help us with this particular topic. But without much ado, let's get straight to business of the day. I'm here with Mr. Berko, as I said earlier. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Miss Mo. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
This morning we've not eaten, but by God's grace, we are well. We'll manage it and take it like that.
And then we are fasting.
Let's take it like that.
Ish. Some spritzes. Oh, okay. I'm glad to have you on the show this morning.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, please. It's quite unfortunate that a particular story has been trending for the past, I think, 2 weeks, and I want us to talk about it this morning on Broad Daylight. So, sir, reports hasten that a 10-year-old named Ishmael Mensah had been murdered by two teenage boys. That is the report we have now. And according to them, they were inspired by television, rituals on television. What is your initial comment on this particular story?
Okay, good morning to all your viewers and listeners. I'm sure probably there will be some visually impaired persons, so I'm right to add our listeners. Now, my initial comment is that at this point it's just an allegation, because the police have prepared what I know are preliminary charges against the two accused persons who are within their graves. So the two teenagers. I understand one is 17, the other is 16 or so. And I also understand from some reports I read on Friday that there's also a spiritualist or something who was arrested somewhere around soon. So at the moment there are all allegations until proven, and then a court of competent jurisdiction will convict them. We cannot say the offense has actually been committed. So my initial comment is that let's trust the agency that have been given the mandate to execute criminal prosecutions in this country. That's the Ghana Police Service, to do a very good job. So at the end, justice will be brought for all of us to be happy. That's my initial comments.
Okay, we know that technically, when there is a case of murder, it should be held be heard at a high court. This is the case. These kids or people involved, are juvenile. What will happen to them then? Will it be at the district court or the high court?
Okay, murder is a first-degree felony that attracts the capital punishment. And as the capital punishment, maximum is death. Okay. Now the truth is, the persons involved, as I said initially, two of them are juveniles, one is an adult. So when it happens that way, because it's an indictable offense means that you don't just start the trial from the high court. You first have to send whoever is being charged with the criminal offense, which is murder, to the district court. And then the district court will do what we call a committal proceedings. Okay, committal proceedings is whereby the persons we brought to court, the prosecution, in this case the police, will prepare a bill of indictment. A bill of indictment will normally spell out the charges against the person. It will contain the particulars of the persons who have been charged, and then it will also spell out the witnesses who will be called during trial at the high court, and then all other material evidence will be stated in the bill of indictment. Okay, so the initial procedure is to bring them to the district court, go through committal proceedings. If there is a case to be answered by the accused, then they will now be committed to the original court that will try them. Because this has to do with a juvenile and an adult, they will all be tried in the high court. However, when it has to do with sentencing, after they have been pronounced guilty, okay, then the high court will then proceed to sentence the adults. But the juveniles will now be remitted back to the juvenile court for the juvenile court to only sentence them. So the full trial will be done at the high court. Sentencing will be done at different forums. Adults, high court, the juveniles at the juvenile court. So the district court comes in only for committal proceedings. If I recall, when they went to court the last time, it was just for purposes of bail. Mm-hmm. And you know the constitution tells you that you cannot hold somebody for more than 48 hours. So it was for the purpose of bail. Because I recall that the police will now have to do a thorough investigation, and then get their facts for which prosecution can go on.
Okay, so when you were talking, you made mention of the fact that they are juveniles. Can you tell us who a juvenile is?
A juvenile simply is someone who is in conflict of the law, someone below the age of 18 who is in conflict of the law. So all other things being equal, we have our laws let us understand that when somebody is below the age of 18, the person, when he or she commits an offense, do not necessarily have the intention, for want of a better word, to do it compared to an adult. So the law is a bit liberal when it has to do with the punishment. So for example, if a juvenile steals something from you, okay, we don't expect that you send a person to Nsawam. That's why we have the Boster home around the cantonment area. Is it Canton Ridge? Is that okay? So we don't commit them to a prison with high walls where we have, I mean, we all know, what do you call it? We sentence them and then they will be given hard labor and arrest. We don't also convict a juvenile to suffer death, the death penalty, and a whole lot. So the Juvenile Offences Act is a bit liberal in my understanding with reference to the Criminal Offences Act itself. That spells out punishment when it has to do with you and I. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah. So with what you just said, that means that irrespective of what the juvenile did or the crime he or she has committed, the law is said that it's a little bit liberal when it comes to their side.
When it has to do with conviction and then the procedure, for example. So the Juvenile Offences Act spells out the fact that when a juvenile is being brought to court, the police who is in the court should not be in uniform. You understand? Another thing too is that their trial does not last more than 6 months. Their sentencing, it's not as grave as that of adults, and a whole lot. Because Ali, we need to give them a second chance at life.
Really?
That is so.
So what will happen to these Tinted Boys who for now report say they are juvenile? They've committed murder. This is murder we are talking about here.
Well, I would want to restrain myself in commenting because the matter is already in court, so I wouldn't want to be dragged to come and answer anything by the judicial system. But the truth is that at the moment, if the prosecution is able to prove that the offenses were committed, then the juvenile courts would end up pronouncing a sentencing. If the offense is not proved, it's not proven, obviously we know where to go. And at the end, they would have a chance for an appeal, just like anybody else. But what will happen in depth is not within my domain to say. That's within the domain of the justice system.
Let me establish a fact here. So, can they be tried or jailed for maybe 5 years or something?
The laws of this land is such that when it has to do with a juvenile, the maximum sentencing is 5 years.
Okay.
Yes, so I remember initially stating that when it has to do with murder, it can attract the capital punishment, that is death. But we will not subject, the laws of this land do not subject juveniles to that. So if, in the worst case scenario, they are pronounced guilty of the offense, convicted and sentenced, the maximum sentence that we are looking at is 5 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so with that particular statement you just made, now they were arrested by the police. So I know there are certain processes that they have to go through, and I know the last stage will be the sentence. So can you please walk us through the arrest, how the whole procedure is going to be like?
Initially, when the police arrest you, they will definitely tell you why they are arresting you by telling you, okay, you've committed ABC offenses, and they will ask you for your statements. Within 48 hours, bring you to courts, and then most often than not, you'll be remanded to police custody or prison custody, whatever it may be. In the case of these juveniles, when the trial is going to commence, it's going to commence with committal proceedings actually at the district courts. And on day one, the police will come what we call a bail of indictment.
Okay.
A bill of indictment basically contains the charges against the persons who are before the district court. It also contains the summary of evidence. It also contains summary of witnesses that the prosecution intends to call. And then on the day, the charges will be read out. The prosecution will address the court. After the prosecution addresses the court, the accused will be permitted to reply or to also address the court, but it's not going to be recorded because that's not where the plea will be taken. Thereafter, the magistrate, if he's of the opinion that a case has been made against the accused for which they are supposed to be committed to the trial court to hear, to defend themselves, would proceed to commit them to the necessary court for the trial to proceed. But before that, the accused will be asked to make a statement, and a statement will include whatever he will say to be recorded, and if he or she requires to call a witness when the trial is going to be called at the High Court, it will also be recorded by the magistrate. The magistrate will then append a signature, the accused will append a signature to it. If the accused refuses to make a statement, that alone will be a subject of comment for the magistrate. If he refuses to sign, also it will be the magistrate will comment on it. When the bill of indictment and all the necessary documents are committed to the trial court, on the first day, the same procedure, you would read the offences to the accused. He or she's plea will be taken. And one point that I forgot: the time between committal and the time that the trial will actually commence should not be more than 1 month. That's what the Act says. Yes. So at the trial court, we first have to do what we call empaneling of a jury. Okay. Yeah. So jury has to do with a 7-member, should I say, a board or a committee, 7-member persons that will normally determine issues of facts, and then the judge will determine issues of law. Okay. So the accused, when the jury is being empaneled, has 2 options to refuse a particular person. So he can just look at Priscilla and say, maybe your face is not nice, so I don't want you to be on my jury. Just have 2 options. Any other option that he or she would raise, would have to support it with relevant reasons why he or she thinks that that person should not serve as a juror on the board. Okay. After the empaneling of a jury, then the whole trial starts. The prosecution will make his case. Afterwards, the accused will do what we call submission of no case. If it's upheld, the person is acquitted. If it's not, he will be asked to open his defense. After that, they will both address the courts, both prosecution and accused. The judge will end up writing his judgment. If there's a conviction, he convicts. If you are supposed to be let go, you go home and go and sleep. Basically, that is it.
Wow.
The truth is, it's not a one-day show. People think it's going to end today or tomorrow. No, it's not one. Let's just be patient and let the authorities do their work.
Wow. Okay, so in the case of murder, let's just move away from this 2 teenagers who have found themselves in this particular kind of trouble. In a general sense, a teenager committing murder, apart from the boys' homes, we all know that is the place they'll be sent to. What are some of the solutions or the judgments that will be given to them?
If we are talking about custodial sentencing, then for now with juveniles, I know of the Buster homes. Okay, yeah. But if you are talking about in general sense, as in murder in general, whereby the person is an adult, we all know that it has to do with prison. Mm-hmm. Okay, yes. But if you ask, your question has to do with all other offences. Is it a juvenile specific or other offences?
Juvenile specifically on murder.
Okay, juvenile specifically on murder. All I know is that the Buster home is where we send them to. We don't send juveniles to adults and place them in general population. No, they're supposed to be treated differently. Just like, for example, when we go to our various secondary schools, we place the females at the female dormitory and the males at the male dormitory. The same way, if at that particular point in time there's maybe a crusade of adults in the secondary school, we will not say that we'll take the old men and old women to go and sleep with the males in their boys' dormitory. That's not done. You understand? So everybody will place in his or her own category. Yes.
Wow, so those are the spelled out punishments in a way.
Where they are supposed to be kept.
Where they are supposed to be kept. Okay, so there have been comments coming that the media has played a major role in all of this. That we show fraudulent content on screens. What would you make of this statement?
I'm someone who would not subscribe to such a thinking, because at the same, when you turn on the TV, there are various motivational shows whereby they are teaching people how to go into entrepreneurship, farming, and the rest. Okay, I do not think that we should use one isolated event to generalize and say that the media is responsible for such a heinous crime that has been committed. Okay, have we asked ourselves how come there are other young working guys out there who watch TV and they are motivated on a daily basis, or listen to the radio and they are motivated on a daily basis? Okay, and also I do not think there's a clear nexus between the crime that has been allegedly committed by these two persons and things that are being shown on TV or being said on radio. So for me, those who are making that comparison, I beg to differ a bit, because there are equally very good contents on TV, on the internet, which the young ones of today are also copying. Yes.
Wow. Okay, so Kasoa is noted to be a hotspot area, a place that when a case is committed or there is something there, something has happened, and police are supposed to go to that particular place to maybe make an arrest or do some one or two investigation. They refuse because of how, excuse me, say, recalcitrant the people are. What do you think should be done there?
I think this would have to do with the security agencies putting up a strategy. I'm just a lawyer. I'm not. I wouldn't say I know a lot about security. In the same vein, somebody will also argue that there are a lot of pretty ladies in Kasoa, and I said guys too are always driving there to go and chill and just. So, I mean, I don't know about that as well. Do you understand? So what we will do about the security situation, I would not say I know about the security situation in Kasoa, but I believe the security agencies and institutions in this country we have very fine gentlemen handling our security setup, and I'm sure they have strategies to curtail such things. I mean, in the past there were stories about for example, a shaman being a very, with apologies to those who live there, being a place that you cannot even drive and then listen to a simple call in your own vehicle. You can be attacked and your vehicle snatched from you. But there are several times I've driven through Ashama and I've not been attacked, and my phone is actually in a line of sight. Okay, that is because the police know what they are doing and they are professionals. They can curtail situations. So I believe maybe this would be a wake-up call for them to more or less address the ills that has to do with Kasoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would be your final comment to the youth? I mean, young people upcoming, and all they know is money. We want money, we want money, we want money. So all that he has to do, he has to get them. You have to do all that it takes to get them money. What do you have for them?
Well, I don't think it's only the youth. All of us want money. If you don't want money, I'm sure by now I would be sleeping. If I don't want money, I wouldn't be dressed saying I'm going to court on a Monday morning. Okay. But then the issue is, I think we all need to find a way to work to make legitimate money. And also my final comment would be to the effect that let's all trust the system, because I've heard situations whereby an alleged crime will be committed and people will say, oh, this will not go anywhere. Let's all trust the system. There are 1,001 times that the police do a very marvelous job. Those are the ages department do a marvelous job, but we don't praise them. This is a situation which I believe that they have at hand. They have full control and full grip over it. Let's trust the system. Let's all be patient and believe in the end. Justice will be brought for all of us to actually see the good work that has been done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's what a show it has been this morning. I was here with a private legal practitioner in the person of lawyer Peprah Berko Ajman, and we spoke about this trending 10-year-old murder that happened right in Kasoa, and I've been making headlines for like 2 weeks. I hope you learned something. Please don't just be a spectator, be a citizen, and make sure you do the right thing at the right times. Make sure that everything that you are doing, you have a positive thinking about what you are doing, and I believe it's going to help us all. You have learned a lot this morning. You've learned the procedures when it comes to arrests through to sentencing when it comes to a juvenile, and we've learned so much about who a juvenile is and then the things that is ascribed to them in case they commit a crime. This is where we draw today's line on broad daylight. My name is Priscilla, and so our next episode, stay blessed.